Well, hey everyone, welcome back to our weekly live cover design broadcast. We are creating a cover on air today in the next hour to hour and a half, and you get to help make decisions on what we are creating. Now, I heard from you, and I always let you pick kind of the topic, the genre, the area, the niche that we're going to be working in for our YA fiction cover that we're creating live on air for you guys. And today I thought we'd try something a little bit different. We're going to go a little bit away from what we typically do while we're on air because I like to break things down to really teach people how to do this and show people how to do this. So I do a lot of the really hard grunt work, and we use a lot of imagery, and we use a lot of models, we have a lot of people, we create dresses, we build the big things. But as something else that is really big inside of the cover industry is text-based or text-heavy covers, where we're featuring the title and then there's some stuff like around it. This typically goes more toward the traditional side and tends to go with either contemporary novels or it goes with certain fantasy novels. So today we're actually going to do a text-based cover together. We're going to be using Photoshop CC, and we are going to be using a Wacom Intuos Pro editing tablet small, and I am going to be using my blue light blocking glasses so I don't burn my eyes out while we are working. And we're going to dive in, and you get to help make decisions while we are here together on air. So let's go ahead and let's actually dive in. I'm really excited about this one because I pulled some really cool imagery that we're going to be using. Check out some of these really pretty leaves that we're going to be creating with. I've got a whole bunch of them, and I'm super excited to be using these. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to add a bunch of these so you can just kind of see. I did do all the work of cutting these out and getting these ready to go beforehand. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to move all these things over to the side so that, nope. Oh, I should have been a little more specific on that one. You guys know how it goes. I'm going to move all of these over just a little bit, or not. I'm going to un-auto select what I'm doing. Let me just move that over here. Oh, haha, and I got a little bit of something I didn't mean to there. That's okay. We'll cut that out in a minute. And I'm just going to grab that and move that over, and then all of these I'm going to move over to the back side because we are going to focus on our cover first, but I did want to show you kind of what we were looking at for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's actually find a font that we like. So I'm just going to duplicate my author name there, and we're actually going to make this gold. It's going to be like a black and gold type cover. So we're probably going to have very dark coloring in the background, which we'll get to in a minute. But I want to find a big, kind of almost like a blocky version of a font. So we're just going to go through and we're going to scroll through until we find a font that we like. I am looking for something a little bit on the creative side. We don't want like simplistic things that kind of look like Times New Roman. We want to make sure that we've got this so that it's a little more on the professional side of things. And you can very clearly tell what type of genre it is going to be based on the text. You guys know text is my least favorite part of creating a book cover because it takes forever to find a really good text that is going to work with your cover. And if you've got ideas, oh, actually, I liked that a lot. Let me grab that one. That's a good font. Yep, I like that. So let's come up with a title for this. If you're jumping on and joining me live, go ahead and let me know what you think our title should be. We're going to go with more of a yellow color for this. So let me actually go in while we're working on that. I'm going to go into my effects, and I'm going to go into my satin. And then I'm just going to click over from the blue down to like a gold color. And I want to make sure it kind of matches what already exists inside of these leaves that we're going to be using that were kind of pre-created. I almost feel like I want to just zhuzh that up just a little bit, make it a little brighter. And so I'm just, there we go. That's a little bit better. And you can kind of see how that blends with it right now. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn this other layer off. I'm going to duplicate this one because I like how author name looks there. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to pull it up to the top. You can either put the name up at the top or at the bottom of this one. And we're going to work on our title. Now we know for our title, each word is going to be on its own individual layer so that we can move them around as needed. Let's call it When And sometimes we want to change it. Look at how different that is from the different types of fonts that we could be, or letters we could be using. The W is either going to move to one way or the other. That's an intuitive font, which is pretty dang cool. So let me just, we can kind of see which one we like better for this. I think I like the first one better. But look how cool that looks, is all I'm saying. That's pretty neat looking. When leaves, oh, I like that. This is a good intuitive font. I'm happy with this one. We'll call it When Leaves Fall. Well, that's unique. Intuitive fonts. I'm telling you, people. I'm telling you. So at that point, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start making this a little more uniform. So I actually want to come in and I want to make this more or less the same size, which means if I'm doing it this way, I actually like the W coming in on this side so that it's a little more boxy, a little more square. And you can kind of see how that works for that. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to move this down here. That is very interesting. That is a very interesting way that they have done this. I'm going to put all of this into one folder, and I'm going to come back and tweak it because I want to work this with the leaves that we are creating. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave this just like this. I do want to darken up my background. So I'm actually going to, I have a textured background right now. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to multiply that. Oh, I like that a little bit better so you can kind of see some of it. I may actually grab a soft round brush, 100% opacity, and nice and big. Whoop, I don't like 100% opacity. Let me bring that down because I do want some of the texture down in this bottom corner. So I'm just going to kind of fill that in just a little bit and tap on that. I do want it to be a little darker up here. So I'm actually going to go in above this layer and I'm just going to lasso the basic general area I want. I'm going to go into a brightness and contrast panel and just pull my brightness down, pull my contrast up. And you can kind of see, you can see the texture through it, but it darkens that up. And then on the large, round, soft brush, 100% opacity, I'm just getting rid of that harsh line by blending it in. And you can kind of see all of a sudden it's starting to pop a little bit more. Makes sense, right? So the more I'm looking at this, the more I see I do actually need to actually be moving my title over just a little bit and then move my author name over just a little bit so it's centered. Remember, we are centering this not by the inside of the frame, but by the actual cover. So it's going to look a little slanted to the right, but it's all good. So then at this point, now's when we get to have the fun. We get to really build out around our leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, one at a time, drag some of these leaves over here. And I need to make these a lot smaller. And we're going to be rotating things. We're going to be changing things. We may include a frame in this, which is something we'll try momentarily. And I'm just going to bring things over. And I'm just looking for anything that got some of that black in there. When I was cutting these out, they went a little weird, a little wonky on me. So I'm just filling some of this stuff in as we go. We're just going to move the things over. And all of this is going to get redone once I've got my pieces over here. I'm going to be able to grab them and just tweak whatever we need to tweak. But we kind of want to get some of the base built as we are creating this. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to pull these things over here. I do have each of these numbered individually so that I can see how many of each kind I'm going to end up having. And I may or may not use that one. That's a flower, which is a little bit different than the leaves. So I'm just going to mark that in case I do want to shift that later. And I'm just going to continue to kind of fill in some of the blank spaces here. And we're just kind of creating a little bit of a frame. We're going to actually work this in a little bit better in a bit, but for now, we're just kind of starting to create a little bit of a frame around it. So you can kind of see where that's falling in. And then we're just going to kind of go with the natural flow of this. So you can kind of see how this leaf actually fits right in with this little gap in the L. We just want to make sure that that kind of flows with it. We want things that look a little bit natural. Look at how well that fits in right there. That's really nice. I like that a lot. So we're going to keep going with this, and we're going to just bend some of our leaves around what we are creating here. You can kind of see I've got some duplicate-y type things because I pulled these from different sources and created them in different ways. So it all works out. And we're just gonna fill this in. And we can put some of this behind our letters. That's totally fine because that fits with the shape of the S. So that might be really nice right there. And we're just going to, I think we are probably going to get rid of that flower. I feel like that doesn't really fit with what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. And the cool thing is I can actually bend these. I can warp these in a minute. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm actually going to move this to another location here. And then I'm going to go into edit, down to transform, down to warp. And then I can pull on the different pressure points here. So we can kind of see I'm able to pull directly on the image, or I can pull on the points on that outside frame to kind of retain the shape a little bit. And you can make things skinnier or wider. You can put more of a dip into it. You can pull things back. I'm just kind of stretching things out a little bit. And then I may even want to rotate this just a tiny bit. You can kind of see it's starting to fall into place there just a little bit. So now's the time when I'm going to start actually really coming in. And I'm going to grab my auto select so I can get the things that I want when I want them. And I just have to make sure that it all fits properly. So we're just going to, again, work along the lines of the letters. If this is something you like, if this is something you want to buy, some of this may change a little bit to kind of go with your title, which does require a lot of work. So if you don't buy it right now while we're on air, it is going to be a lot more money for you because it does require a lot of customization when it comes to getting your title in here, because it's no longer just tweaking a title. It's working the entire story, the entire cover story around what you are creating. So I'm just coming in and I'm just grabbing different, nope, it didn't like me there. Let me try this one. Sometimes with auto select, it's like, nope, we're done. We're not gonna play that game. And we're just going to fill these things in different locations. Kind of really build out that leafy look. And oftentimes when I'm doing this, if I'm working with multiple pieces that are going in multiple places, I'm just going to take one of them and I'm going to put in a bunch of those. Then I'm going to go to another one and I'm going to put in a bunch of those. So I'm going to put them in different sizes, in different locations. We're going to fit them in and warp them and rotate them. But basically what we're doing here is we're just creating a frame. So this is going to be very heavily influenced by the things that we are creating right now. Oh, hey, that's the one I wanted. That's exciting. So we're just coming in and we're putting in as much of this golden look as possible to fill in. Oh, that's pretty. Y'all, that one was pretty. Sometimes you just get things in the right place at the right time and it just fits so nicely. Like, look at that, y'all. Okay. And we're just creating this gilded look on here because we want a lot of this pretty gold coloring to go in here and just really fit to create this pretty frame. Oh, this is just so nice. Before I go any further, I know there's some that I haven't used a lot. I want to get in more of those. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to grab some of these more like already fleshed out, figured out type things. And we're just going to make it a little bigger so that it doesn't actually touch that leaf, but does frame it nicely. There we go, framing things. We like framing things. We're going to duplicate stuff, and we are going to be able to, again, we can warp things if we need to. We can erase pieces if we need to. We can add pieces in. These bigger ones are going to typically act more like filler for me. So I'm just kind of bringing that in different locations. I even have the ability to transform it, so I can do it in different ways. Let me see. Blending, attempting to blend in that one just a little bit there. There we go. And we're just going to use this definitely as filler for different parts of this as we create and build this frame, which is something we're also going to add in a little bit of. We want to make sure we're building out a frame on the back side too. I know right now I'm focused very strongly on the front part of this, but we also need to make sure we're including the spine. We need to make sure we're including the back as well. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to grab some more of these little guys that are already kind of pre-created a little bit. And we're just going to fill those in just a little bit that I want to kind of, there we go, come off of that. And we're just really building out a nice frame for these. And they can go behind the letters, they can go on top of letters, we can wrap things around letters if we want. We're just building it out so that it has some character and depth as we're creating these. Like I said, you can transform things. You have the ability to add things in other places. You can warp things. You can erase things. You can add things in so they look like more than one part of that. That's something I want to go in and I actually want to flip that horizontally. And then there we go. And just move that down just a little bit. There's a little bit of an accent right there. I definitely see some gaps in here, but I want to build this out. Continuing on with our back here, we want to make sure we've got some of this over in the corners. You can use some of these like larger pre-designed pieces to do a lot of the heavy lifting, especially on the back when you don't need to do quite as much. So we're just coming in and we're just duplicating things and we're, uh-oh, it moved on me. It's okay. Let's see, this one was the one I was going for. It was not the one I was going for, but I'll duplicate that and work with it. You'll notice when you get to the back cover, I tend to allow it to do a lot of the heavy lifting by using bigger pieces. I don't do as much detail work on back covers because there's going to be a lot of text there anyway. So you don't want to take up a ton of space by creating a lot of visuals back there because you're already going to be so busy with lots and lots of words and lots of things. So you're going to notice we do tend to have bigger pieces and some smaller pieces, but we let the text do a lot of the spatial work on that back cover. So we don't do nearly as much work on back covers as front covers in most cases, just because there's already so much going on. So I'm just adding in some leafy pieces just to kind of give it some texture there. And some of this is going to go, of course, back on our front cover. So you'll notice as I'm doing this, I tend to bounce between back cover, front cover, spine, just because it can get a little on the tedious side to just spend all your time working in one particular location. So I am just filling in missing spaces. And this is really cool. I might actually want this to go along with my W. And then I actually might rotate this a little bit so that it kind of, didn't like that. Sometimes you try things and then it didn't work and you just have to keep going and fix it in a different way. Let's see. I'm just glancing to see which ones I've used a lot of and which ones I haven't used as much of, so that I can go in and I can kind of balance that out a little bit. And so I'm just duplicating things, grabbing them and rotating them, and making sure things fit where they need to fit. And all of this especially is if somebody grabs this particular cover, it's going to be a lot of heavy editing work to make it fit with what they want. If this is not the title, this is going to be something that does require more work than a lot of the normal covers that you would get from a pre-made cover, just because with the text heavy ones, you have to actually, oops, it didn't like that. You have to actually manipulate it around the text. Oh my. There we go. It didn't like me. That's okay. We fixed it. Let's see. I'm going to grab maybe a little bit of this one. I haven't used that one a ton on this, so let's go ahead and let's add more of that to what we're doing over here somewhere. We'll put this over there. Perhaps this is one that we'll just have floating partway over here. Oh, that's cute. I'm just going to fill in a little bit more up here. And it doesn't have to be a full frame. There can be gaps in it. I'm actually starting to really like what I'm seeing on the cover here. I'm just now, I think, going to fill in a little bit on this back spine here, just a little bit. We just want to make sure that we've got enough there to kind of, I'm just holding up my hand to see what that looks like. That's actually pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my author name. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to move this over to my back cover, and I'm going to add in my fancy hook line. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that it fits. And I may even add a little bit more structure to the back. Like I could, for example, I could just grab one of the, yeah, let's just say like this one. Oh, that's the only leaf like that that I have used. Maybe I need to use that somewhere else as well. I could make this pretty big and actually bring this over to the back here. Maybe just a little smaller because I don't necessarily want everything touching in specific locations. But like that could potentially just take away everything. And if that's too much, if it's too much for the text, you just back it off so that you've got things in the background, but it doesn't take away from the text. So you can see it's still kind of there. So at that point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this because I haven't done that yet. And it's really important to make sure you're saving things. My title's all in one folder here. So I'm actually going to duplicate this, and I am going to turn all of this sideways. So I'm going to go into Edit, Transform, down to Rotate clockwise 90 degrees. I'm going to bring this over here, and this is way too thick to be putting on this spine. Of course, spines will change as you are changing the size of the spine. So everything on the back, everything on the everything on the spine and everything on the back will change when you have to reposition things to match the size of the book. So if it's a short book, things are going to change. If it's a big book, things are going to change. Now with this, it kind of starts on the spine to blend into this. So I'm actually going to go to Layer, down to Layer Style, down to Drop Shadow, and I'm actually going to add in some background. That is super harsh, so I'm actually going to just kind of play with my sizing here, and then I'm going to lower my opacity. So you still see the leaves behind it, it just makes it stand out a little bit better. So then, now that that's done, I'm going to go and I'm going to add a layer above my title on my main page. And I am going to go into my brushes. I'm going to make sure I'm on a white brush with 100% opacity, and I am just going to go down to my flare brushes. So I am just looking for where my favorite flare brush is. And I am just going to make it a little bit bigger and tap wherever I dang well please, because I'm going to move it in just a minute. I'm going into layer, style down to outer glow. You guys know how this works. We've done this before. We do this on almost all of our cover live streams because glowy things sell really dang well. And maybe that's not quite the color I want. Maybe I need to make it a little more orangey. Not quite that orange. Just adjusting. That looks a little bit better. I'm going to make it a little brighter. Oh, now it's too orange. Let me go in and let me do a little more yellow. And I'm just pulling it down. There, that looks like a little more of a match. And then I'm going to be able to, now because it's on an individual layer, I can come in and I can add flare wherever I want to. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. I can even add some flare to some of these leaves. So if I wanted to be like, yes, this leaf has flare, it is gold, it is embossed, it is gilded, it is whatever, I can actually do that so that it's picking up some of the reflectiveness of what we're creating. So wherever it's a light space, we're just going to make sure it falls properly so that it looks like it really truly is picking up some of this. And we're just going to randomly place it on some of these because things like this wouldn't pick up everywhere. You just want little hints of that glow. So then we're also going to translate this over to the back cover. So somewhere that is kind of potentially shiny, we want to add a little bit of shine too, because we want that consistency from the front and the back. So anywhere where there's a light area where it looks like the light is naturally falling, we're just going to give a little bit of a glare to that. And we want to keep in mind that things don't necessarily glare on the tops and the bottoms. They glare somewhere in the middle. So you have to make sure when you're using flare that you're doing it properly. I see way too many covers with glow on the bottom of letters or the top of letters, and it is just not natural. So we want to make sure that we're doing that properly. We may even add some to part of our hook line, which is too high, which means we have to bring that layer up. Ha, there we go. Now I can also, if I would like, I can duplicate that, and then I can go into edit, transform, rotate 90 degrees, make it a little bit bigger here, and then I can slap this onto my title over here. And you can do it one of two ways. You can do it in the same location that you did it on the front of the cover, but because these are also in different locations, it is straight up and down instead of horizontal. So it's vertical up and down instead of horizontal, or stacked on top of each other. It is a little bit different. So you have the ability to choose different locations as well. These flares are a little too big, so I'm just resizing these and making sure they fall in the proper location. And I can also, if I wanted, I have the ability to come in and just kind of highlight again some of those leaves that we have created on here. But those flares are actually going to go the proper way. And so there you have it. That is a text-based cover. You can actually go in if you want, and this is actually something I may do a little bit, so you can kind of see how it was framed. Now it's not so much framed. So I may want to actually come down to the lower end of this. So I'm coming right above that textured background, and I'm going to add in a blank layer, and then on a soft round brush on 100% opacity, all I'm going to do, I'm going to hold my shift button down to have a nice straight line, and I'm just going to make sure it's on black, not white. I'm just going to go over where those lines are. And I'm going to do this to kind of create a little bit of a vignette. We don't like vignette. Vignette is like old school, but we're just going to darken it down. So let me take this off real quick. Let me take the frame off. You can see how it's darkened, but we don't want it that dark. So we're going to actually reduce the opacity on here just so that it kind of pulls it in, but it doesn't have all that harshness. So I'm at like 50% right now, and you can kind of see, let me turn it on and off. You can see where it defines it a little bit more. So it really makes that center stand out. And so I'm just looking to see where I like it best. And I think I'm 38-ish% opacity. And then at that point, you have the ability to tweak whatever you need. So you can do color shifting through curves or levels. You can play with your contrast a little bit. You can play with your brightness if you want a little bit. I just did a little bit on the contrast side so you can kind of see how that stands out a little bit more. But I really like how this has turned out. This is very much one of those things that's going to jump out, especially in the traditional world, or if you're trying to create more of a traditional based cover where we've got that heavy text friendly type of cover. Now, next week, we are going to be doing another cover live stream. So let me know, what genre should we be doing? Should we do contemporary romance? Should we do paranormal romance? Should we do dystopia? Should we do fantasy? Should we do fairy? Should we do princess or royalty? Should we do academy? What do you want to see next week? We're going to be jumping on for another live stream, and you get to help make decisions while we're live on air every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. here on our YouTube page and in our secret cover group. If you are a publisher or an author, you can buy this while I'm on air every single week for only $100. Otherwise, it goes back into our normal sale over at coveraday.com. And of course, to see more speed edits, the live streams behind the scenes, or to ask questions, get more information, you can head over to coveraday.com, where we do pre-made covers and custom created covers for YA and romance industries. I would love to see you guys over there. If you've got questions, go ahead and drop those, and I'll teach you everything I know about creating covers live on air next week. Until then, have a great day and stay inspired. Bye, friends.